Here I am again, floating through the silence in my cold skin. My body is wearing thin. My fears tell me I'll never win. My body is wearing thin. And there's darkness here. The whole world I fear. In my room I seem to drown. But I won't let them take me down. I won't let them take me down. I won't let them take me down, down, down. I'll rise and I'll fall again, fighting off the violence in my cold skin. My body is wearing thin. My fears tell me I'll never win. My body is wearing thin. And there's darkness here. The whole world I fear. In my room I seem to drown. But I won't let them take me down. I won't let them ground shake.
AMA of 2019. Not only our first AMA of 2019, but our first live stream ever. We've never done a YouTube live AMA like this, so we're really excited about that. We have with us today Nicholas Van Hoord of Delta. He is the co-founder and CEO of Delta. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks, and thanks for having me, of course.
Yeah, it's great to hear. We're so happy that you could make it. I was hoping you could just tell us a little bit about your background first. A little bit about your co-founders, how y'all started working on Delta, and how you got involved in crypto.
Cool. Yeah. So I think the story began, I would say, mid 2017, which is not that long ago, or early 2017, March, Aprilish. One of the co-founders and myself, so me and Philip, basically, who's a CTO, we're working at a company which was around real estate. So it had nothing to do with crypto, but basically two elements came into play. At the one hand, we were looking into, okay, what can we do with our money savings? So we looked into different things, savings, stocks, and crypto. And I think crypto was, of course, for people like us who were very much active in the IT space, the most interesting and most promising type of all.
Sure.
So we did a deep dive. So I wouldn't call us early adopters in any way, since 2017 is quite late. It's before the big boom, of course, but it's still relatively early in terms of how long it is ago. And then the second element that came into play was the fact that we were both not super happy at the company we were both working at. So Philip is for me personally, one of the best engineers I know. I'd like to think I'm pretty good at doing product and design. And one thing led to another. We started talking. We started using Blockfolio because we did our first investments into crypto. And while we back then, of course, liked what Blockfolio was doing, we thought, okay, I think there are some key things where it's maybe flavor a flavor thing or matter of opinion, but we thought we could do something better, and we basically jumped ship at the company where we left. And
Okay.
the thing is, when we resigned, the founders of that company where we were employed actually also were very intrigued by the idea, and they basically said, okay, we want to be part of this, and they also became co-founders and invested in the company, which then became to be Delta.
Really? So the co-founders of the real estate company that you're working at, they got involved as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge testament to what y'all are doing.
Yeah, it's indeed. It's everybody likes that part of the story, but yeah, indeed, I think it proves the belief in the project we were pitching, and of course the people. It also made it made the entrepreneurship part for us a bit easier. We need to be honest. We basically were able to not only get extra funds, but we actually basically got smart money. So people that had experience, that founded multiple companies, and having that basically helped us bootstrap, I would say, the company in a very efficient and optimal way. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to describe Delta, in 30 seconds, if you were to give your elevator pitch, how would that go exactly?
Well, I think right now Delta is a portfolio tracker app that helps you as an investor get a clear overview of all the things you invested in the crypto space. And we'd like to think that we also, as an application, help investors make better investment decisions. And if we can nail those two parts, I think we have a good thing going.
Okay. And a lot of the recent work you've been doing is with Delta Direct, right? That's more like news focused.
Yeah, I think indeed the connecting the space was indeed something we wanted to do in a second hand, I would say. So first we wanted to get the basics right, and I think we managed to do that quite well. There's of course still stuff we need to improve and add even more things, and maybe cut away things that aren't used. But aside from the core of Delta, which is purely a financial tool, being portfolio tracking, or price tracking, you would say, we also wanted to do something. Okay, we basically have the objective facts right there, and then we also want to connect all these token teams and having maybe the editorial content, the updates from the team, so you actually know what's going on with the things you invested in or might invest into the future, without just, or basically you have more context as to why a price is going up or why it's an interesting thing. Whereas most of the portfolio apps out there are purely price driven, which is great to track your portfolio, I would say, but it doesn't help you in terms of, it doesn't help you validate the worth or the potential of the investment or future investments.
Yeah, you're looking at a lot more than just the chart when you're on Delta.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk some more about like maybe some of the features, the basic features, and then some of the pro features with the app. But I just wanted to, let everybody know in the Discord that we're going to move on about a little over 20 minutes to taking questions from you guys. We have some in the AMA thread already, but feel free to keep those rolling because we want to hear from you and we want to know what you want to ask Nicholas. All right, real top line, roughly how many crypto assets do you actually have available for tracking in the app, and how many exchanges?
To be honest, I kind of lost count. There are thousands of coins being available in the app.
Yeah,
probably
that's
tens
a good problem to have
every day. I would say that we cover 99% of the market, especially of the markets where coins are being traded on exchanges. I'm not going to speak to coins that are just available in wallets but are not actually being traded. But from the ones that are being traded, I would say that we support almost all of them because we add exchanges continuously. We have, I would say, more than 200 or maybe 300 exchanges supported. We are known to also be very fast in adding new coins. If somebody asks a certain coin, we try to either instantly add the coin because we already support the exchange, or at the exchange as the top of our agenda. We have this ask.delta.app system where basically people can upvote certain or request certain features, exchanges for coins, and this helps us actually very easily organize the amount of exchanges requests we get and prioritizing them based on customer demand.
Okay. And one thing I like too, if you're adding a new transaction and you're choosing like a smaller coin, maybe the recommended exchanges or the exchanges that you can say the transaction was bought or sold from limits to just the trading pairs that that coin is listed on. Like you're not going to see 300 exchanges if it's not on Coinbase, you won't see Coinbase in that list.
Exactly. And even for coins like Bitcoin, for instance, where there are tons of exchanges, we added a search field so people can very easily find the exchange they want to, instead of manually having to scroll to a huge list. Because the amount of exchanges that get added or got added in 2018 has been huge. So and you basically also need to support the exchanges that have died, because basically people did buy there and they want to have an accurate representation of the history. So it becomes a big challenge.
There's more than a handful. Yeah. So how many languages do you guys support?
I think over 10. We recently added quite some languages like Vietnamese, Japanese, Polish, and I think we are well over 10 now, which is, I think, the most of any cryptocurrency portfolio tracking app out there. So I'm counting 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, like 16 languages right now, including awesome. Chinese, simplified traditional, Japanese, like I said, but also European languages, Spanish, Portuguese, etc.
Okay. Which is great because, crypto is so global. Our Discord is, there are people from all over the world. And I'm sure that really helps toward lowering the barriers.
Yeah, indeed. I think having everybody in the world being connected in or being able to have the same tools available to them is, I think, important.
Mm. Where's the data coming from, like the coin market cap numbers and things like that? Is that updated in real time? How does that work?
So currently, let me say, I think for the biggest part of 2018, most data in terms of the markets and the global average were relying on the coinmarketcap.com data and the API. But in the end of 2018, Q4, we basically switched over to our own global average system, since we have actually, I think, even more connections with exchanges than they do. So I would say that our global average is a bit more accurate. So we basically have all these prices from the exchanges, and then we have our own coin market cap system in the background, which fetches in real time, as you say, the prices. The prices don't get pushed real time to the app, but I think it's basically every 5 seconds, I think, and then you can also manually pull down to refresh. But I think in the upcoming weeks, we are adding real-time prices, so you get live updates for our pro users, since that's an extra benefit for those as well.
Okay. You know what? Actually, that's a really good segue. Why don't we talk about Pro a little bit? So, as I understand it, a large majority of the app is free, but then there's a Pro subscription that you can purchase as well. So what are the main features of Pro? And then what's the cost? Is that annual, monthly? How does that work?
Yeah, so I think we introduced Pro. So we launched Delta the 1st of October in 2017. I think we launched Pro the 1st of December. So it's actually quite fast after our release. And it was a very conscious decision as a business, because on the one hand, we still stand by this promise, we don't want to ever sell data from the users. We also are not into I would say we are not a massively funded company compared to Blockfolio, who raise a lot of money. It's very much a smaller thing for us, where basically only the founders and some employees are basically shareholders, and no external party is a shareholder. And that meant that we needed to survive as a business. And getting revenue where we have the most experience as a team is by having a freemium subscription. And like you said, I think 95% of the app is completely free. I would also say that standard usage is free as well. It's just for those people that want to really, really have a deep dive into the features of Delta at a limited amount of connections, exchange connections, wallets, having more portfolio analytics modules, and soon the real-time prices. I think for those people, the Delta Pro subscription definitely makes sense. We also have some more cool snuffs, I would say, on top of that. Like we have a dark mode and a light mode, which is available for all, but then we have this uber dark mode, you might say, which is a bit fancier for just the pro users. They get early access to stuff. So I think it's a fair system right now. It's I would say, depending on the region you're in, between $50 and $60 a year. So less than $5 a month, which I think makes sense for the thing we're doing. And yeah, that's I think what we'll try on doing by not limiting the experience for the free users as much as possible, by still creating value for both the pro user and the free user.
Okay. And then that pro user probably looks like a trader most of the time, you know, somebody who's a really heavy, you know, doing a lot of, you know, maybe even day trading.
Yeah, indeed. And we have tons of ideas of things we can do, which I would say is more for a pro user anyway, like very advanced alerts, like let me know if, like relative alerts. Everybody can set alerts right now, and it's a very simple system. Okay, notify me when Bitcoin reaches 4K, for instance. But we can expand much more on that. We can integrate market cap alerts, volume, other things, indicators. So I think when we look at pro, we really want to have it make sense, and to be like, okay, would the average users use this feature or really miss it? And then I would say no. Would the very advanced, experienced investor like and use it? Yes. And I think it makes sense for being part of the pro value.
Okay. You know what? I was just going to ask, like, what some long-term goals that you have might be. You kind of already hit on that, but I'm even curious about if you have some long-term goals for maybe other products from Opus Labs, or, you know, what, you know, the next few years might look like for Delta.
Well, I think we're very much focused solely on Delta right now. We don't have any plans to make any other product. We do look into two things, which is basically broadening the scope of the app in a way that encapsulates a bigger audience. I would say that Delta Direct was a very first step towards that. We are about to release, hopefully later this week or early next week, the Delta 2.0 version, which will bring another new component to the thing. It has a small redesign for those that use light mode as well. So that definitely looks cool.
Did we just get a reveal? Has that been announced yet? We'll keep it quiet. Don't worry.
And then hopefully when we look into the few months later, I would say we are still investigating in the same thing, which is broadening the scope and having more people from the market being part of having a use for Delta. And it's a gradual process, but I think we're well on our way. The only risk, which I find personally very difficult, or a difficult challenge, is how do you increase the scope of the app without not decreasing the easy to use part of the app or the functionality by making the app over complex. So that's something we're guarding very much. Like, we have all these options. You can put different layouts and you could choose between black icons and colored icons, and it's all small things. But I think last version we decided, okay, we cut some of these things, because also you never hear from people they like something until you take it away. So that's quite funny as well. But.
So true. You guys go for kind of a minimal look to the app too.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And
I think.
Go ahead. You first.
Well, I think one of the few things that made Deltas stand apart from competitors is, especially in the previous version of certain apps, I think is the design and the user interface. I think in 2018 we also won the Webby for the best mobile app user interface. So it's one of those things we are very proud of, and it's also actually something we really look into when we build new stuff. It's like, okay, does this make sense user interface wise, usability wise? And that's why I previously said that it's a big challenge to not overcomplicate the app, because I really want to, and it's a difficult thing. It's like you want to cater for the person that actually hasn't even bought one cryptocurrency yet, and at the same time also cater for those users that do 100 trades a day. And you might call it betting on two horses, but for us it's mainly trying to deliver an experience that makes sense for all kind of people, and it's a sort of life cycle, and the app grows with you during your investment experience, basically.
Sure. I mean, I think crypto is such a fascinating space too, because you have this set of really, really knowledgeable users who understand the public and private address relationship and cryptography, fundamentals and things like that, that you can't expect, somebody's grandmother to understand if she's buying her first Bitcoin. And, and so it's a really wide range of people that you're trying to design a product for.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So briefly, while we're talking about the future, would your team have any interest at some point in external funding, or do you think that you'll stay, internally funded, for, foreseeable future?
It depends. I think we are not opposed to external funding if it's a partner that is basically in the same line as the original founders, which basically bring more than just the financial part. If, for instance, we have a key strategic partner or a strategic investor in Asia and can help us grow, or help us basically have a very widespread activity in those regions, then I would say that makes sense. But in terms of are we actively looking for extra funding right now, that's not the case. But we always look into people that are interested. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's really interesting. All right. What else? Well, I noticed there's a live order book feature. Could you tell us a little about that? And do you have a rough idea of how many markets, exchanges are supported compared to, the overall?
I think it's about 20, I would say 20 exchanges. So it's not a huge amount, but it's, I think, enough for the people that, well, it's the biggest used exchanges, the most used exchanges, sorry. And indeed, the live order book is, I think, a feature we added somewhere mid Q3, I would say, of 2018. And is indeed something that is most used by active traders. And we still believe it's a very good feature, because it's like you said, it's more advanced than you might expect on a mobile application like Delta, because it's live updating on the one hand, and you also have the spread and everything. You have quite some more controls. It's not as in depth, of course, as on the exchange itself, but as a quick look, I think it works very well. Okay.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I was able to play around with them a little bit, but I didn't get too in depth. All right, we're getting into the sort of the nitty gritty right now, but so if, like, hypothetically, I wanted to export the portfolio that I build in Delta, and I wanted to export that into a CSV, maybe for like coin tracking and taxes, or if I was moving to another tracker, or if I wanted to export my Blockfolio portfolio over to Delta, is that doable? Like, how would I go about that?
So first question of you, I would say, is something which is very clear for us. So we immediately, when we launched Delta, we're very much in favor of full data exportability. So that's why we offer for every user, pro or free, a CSV export of all transactions. For now, it's only available on the desktop application. So you will see the option on the mobile, and it will say go to the Delta desktop, which is free to download, by the way. It's just that it was easier for us to build or to save a CSV file to a computer than to a phone. I think it's also easier for the user itself. I think it's key. Like, even you would say, okay, but it doesn't allow for people to switch over to a cryptocurrency or other portfolio tracker, like you mentioned. But I think that's basically asking the wrong question. For us, it's not about prohibiting that a user takes his data to another competitor. I think the user is owner of his data, and he can do what with his own or her own data as he pleases. Our job is to make sure the user doesn't want to switch instead of preventing them to switch. And then, for instance, Blockfolio, like you said, it is not possible for, unfortunately, to transfer your data from Blockfolio to Delta, basically because they do not allow for this data exportability. So
okay.
They don't have an option to export to CSV. And if you want to transfer to devices, you have to contact their support, which they will do internally. So you basically never get a hold of your own thing. There was a brief period where you could, I think a third party made something to be able to export your data via a key that was hidden in the app. But I think they closed it down. So for right now, it's not possible at all.
Of course. Well, I mean, it's really refreshing to hear your team's perspective on the user's data and how they should be able to, sort of be empowered.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you, just from like handling taxes and downloading CSVs from all the exchanges and all of that nonsense, it's a headache. Like, it sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's really helpful to have that, central portfolio in your tracker, download it and have everything right there.
Yeah, and I think the next step for us, I think we kind of have it. You could say that the CSV export we support is like the very V1 or version 1 of a text report. But I think we do have plans to also build full-fledged text reports as well. So
cool.
Helping users with that as well, since indeed we are in the best position to actually offer this, since we have all the transactions and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's pivot a little bit, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about Delta Direct. So, yeah, so that's one of the newer features that you guys rolled out, and it. I was looking at this earlier today. So when you're looking at one coin, or maybe your transactions for one coin, if you scroll down a little bit, you see a project description for that coin, but then you also see a direct portal for all of the recent news, as long as the team, the project has onboarded to your app. But yeah, so it looked like it was maybe some blog posts. I don't know if there were like articles that are published from certain publications, but so if you could just tell us, Nicholas, what does that process look like, that onboarding process? And does the team have to say, we'll give you access to our blog, or like what exactly is getting published?
So right now how it works is we have about 275 teams onboarded, I would say right now. And it's, I would say that the majority of those are basically people that went to delta.direct/apply, which is basically a form from token teams to fill in, and there they fill in all the information. Then we get in touch, and it's a very simple process. We say, okay, on the one hand, you can send custom messages or updates to the Delta application. And on the other hand, you can also link your blog post. So we basically automatically fetch as soon as a new blog post goes live as a direct. And it's actually an advantage for everybody, because on the one hand, what we see is that most teams, what they do is they write a blog post, they publish it, and then they go to all these platforms or systems and they tell everyone, we wrote this blog post. So we took away one step, another place to go post, which is basically say, okay, we know you made a blog post, we just automatically import it and notify people. And on the one hand, you still have the ability to actually send custom messages. And it's, I think, a win-win in that sense, that it's less work for the token teams, and we are always the first platform to report on a new blog post, because we instantly know, whereas there's no human intervention to say, okay, I actually need to go to the system, log in and say, okay, we have a new blog post. If they forget, it doesn't happen. If they wait for it, it's later. So yeah, I would say it's one of the better things we've done in the recent months, I would say. And we get incredible good feedback from every party involved, the token teams, the users. We also see that there's a very high interactivity for the updates. We also see that there are about 5,000 updates a month in total. So that's like 14 per team or something. So it's quite good.
That's great. That's great to hear. And yeah, so if you're a user that has a portfolio with, say, 3 coins, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, then you can opt in to receive notifications from the projects that you're paying attention to, right? You won't automatically get notifications for every coin.
No.
Okay.
So again, we made it very much user first, so we didn't want to suddenly harass people with notifications. Is a very much opt-in system instead of an opt-out system. But we also wanted to, and actually this is what's the main thing for our 2.0 release is, you mentioned it briefly, you have the communications from the teams themselves, but I wouldn't call those very objective since it's the teams themselves posting. It's a nice way to get instant feedback or update from the people directly involved. And then we also in 2.0 added these accredited news sources, which also more objectively, I would say, report on certain events around coins. So in 2.0, what you can do is you can follow certain coins. So if, for instance, you follow Bitcoin, you will see in your personalized feed Bitcoin news and all the other coins you follow. And then on top of that, you can also say, okay, I follow it, but I also want to receive updates about the direct. So I think we bring two worlds together in a smart way, and the feed is also built in a smart way. So for instance, we know you're most likely to like this article or this update, and we also have these systems like Twitter has, like who to follow, because we know that you might be interested. And I think that's the one thing that was missing. I think Delta Direct was is very good already to let users know the latest updates about the coins they own already. But the two things we didn't have was first the editorial content, so the more objective content, and on the other hand, allowing users to also discover content that is basically from token teams they have not invested in yet, but they might be interested in.
Okay.
And this new way of discoverability, I think, is something we bring to the 2.0 version.
Got it. So you might be introduced to, new exciting projects you hadn't even heard of yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, then, you know what? I mean, that's pretty much it from me. I have one last question for you before we turn it over to the audience, but it's pretty general. What, Nicholas, are you excited about for 2019? I mean, not just for Delta, but in crypto in general.
Well, I think 2019 will be a crucial year for crypto because I think we are in front of either a quite stable year or a slowly declining year, which I think would be good news. I think if we go back to something where a 2017, early 2018 type of period, I think it's, again, potentially very poisonous for the industry. I think a lot of the wheat is being cut out right now, and I think we have now a very good foundation where we can build on all the scam coins or scam ICOs or exchanges that are more in for it for the money instead of the technology and the industry are getting thrown out. So we basically are back at the point where all these companies that truly believe and are truly invested in the space are there. With the extra funds and things that happened, I think we are in a better shape than prior to the previous bull run.
Okay. I like the positivity.
We have to stay positive.
We have to. After so many days of red, I mean, man, yeah. All right. So that's it for me. Why don't we move into the Discord? So we've got some questions that we saved over the past few days. As people have been asking. So I'm going to read through those, but anybody who's watching, if you would like to ask a question and chat with Nicholas, then hit us up in general, AMA, either feed. We're watching both of them, and let us know what you want to know about. So the first question is from Tojo. Hey guys, been using Delta for a while now. I love the app. I was wondering if the team has any plans to hook into exchange APIs or wallet addresses and grab our token balances directly. Syncing with wallets and the ones on exchanges would make tracking a lot easier.
I have good news because we already support this. So you can already link exchange APIs and your wallets. You can even just scan the QR code of your wallet and it imports automatically all your transactions, even so your balances. It's really, it's quite a good system. And the good news is, I would say that the user flow is quite tech savvy still. I think it's one of our worst user flows. I think technically it works perfect, but the way for getting from start point to success is maybe a bit more difficult. So I think in the next version or the one after that, we're going to made this process a lot easier, having a step-by-step process and actually introducing a lot more users to having their balances automatically synced from the exchanges and the wallets.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, one and done.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, do you guys? Yeah, we do. Actually, we already do. All right. Sigma is asking, is Delta looking to add any tax functionality? Would be especially nice if we could generate tax reports in the future, exportable in XLSX or PDF.
Well, I think we briefly touched on this. We do support export of CSV already. I think it's already a good first thing for people to help them with their tax reports, but there's still some manual work involved. I think if you're looking, probably not the last or not the year you have to report on soon, but the next one, I think we'll be able to offer full-fledged tax reports for different countries and locations. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. And then would that be like, would it give you the options to maybe pull LIFO or FIFO reporting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That would definitely help a lot in taxes.
Yeah.
It's the biggest headache of the year for me, at least. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's a common, I would say, stress we hear a lot about. And like I said, I think Delta is in the best position to offer this. So we want to make it happen. And I think after the plans we have, it's time to start building this.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Who else? Snores is asking if Delta will offer API functionality in the future. I know we hit on this a little bit already, but they're asking more about price indicators or aggregation of prices.
Yeah, we don't have a public API right now, so you can't really hook into the Delta API and get all this data. It's something we might look into. I'm going to be honest, it's not on our short-term roadmap in any way. But I know, considering the space, it's something that makes a lot of sense. And as soon as some worries like competitive disadvantage, etc., and maybe also server costs related to other people using it are cleared up, I think it's fairly doable, I would say.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. They actually have a follow-up question, different topic, but, and feel free to answer as much or as little of this one as you want, but how does Delta make money? Is it a sustainable business model? Do you guys provide any data on projects listed on, actually, I think that's still separate. They said, I know, for example, Blockfolio uses, or at least used in the past, data that's shared and promotes projects through their app to generate income. So, just curious a little bit about your business model.
Yeah, currently our business model is 100% Delta Pro, which is a freemium B2C product, I would say. We are also not charging nor the user nor the teams for the Delta Direct system, and we also don't really have concrete plans for that. And in terms of data, like I mentioned in the beginning, we made a promise in the very start that we would never sell user data, and we want to keep that promise. So we have no intention to share data with third parties, sell them or distribute them in any way. Like I said, the user is the owner of his data or her data and should be able to decide and do what he or she wants with it. That being said, it is right now more difficult for us in terms of building a sustainable business model in terms of making the company profitable. But that being, aside from that, that means that we are currently looking into increasing the pro value, as I already mentioned, without hurting the free experience. And on the other hand, also exploring ways to have partnerships with third parties where also the Delta user actually has a benefit. This can be an exchange or something, but this is not about selling user data. It's basically just an editorial advertising type of deal, which would be the first for us because in contrary to our competitors, we have never done actually any, I would say, B2B or paid adverts in the app, but it's something we are looking into right now. But again, it's to make sure that we can keep the business running, and at the same time, we are not planning to hurt the free experience in any way.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, we definitely appreciate that, speaking from the perspective of the users. What else we got? What else we got? Akila is asking, how do you collect the data in the app to optimize the UX flow?
I'm not entirely sure what he means or she means, but if it's in terms of a UX flow, I would say that we just look at what makes sense the most. And like I said, data is not shared to any third parties. We do not have any plans to do that. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. All right. Follow-up question from Akila. In the future, do you think we'll be able to trade directly from the app?
It's something we looked into in 2018. I think we had quite some worked out plans for doing this, but in the end, we decided to not go for it because I think it would, I think, move Delta into a sort of area where it actually narrows the scope instead of broaden it, where we actually cater for traders and everything. And I also think that there are way too many exchanges already. So having either Delta become an exchange, I think that was never an option. And what was an option was saying, okay, via Delta, you can trade on these different exchanges. I wouldn't say it's not going to happen ever, but right now we basically planned not to do this.
Okay. It's not your focus.
Yeah, indeed.
That makes sense. All right. Last question. I love this one. Ibrahim's asking if you guys are going to run a promo for Delta Pro for the wrecked degens.
Yeah, I think we do have plans to introduce a pro trial, which means that people can try it out without having to pay, which I think is something we should have done a while ago, so people can get to see the value firsthand without having them to jump in and pledge down an entire year without actually knowing if there's any value. And I think that's a more honest approach and also allows for people that are currently a bit more in the red to first give it a try before actually committing towards the $50 or $60.
Okay. Do you have a rough idea of how long that trial might be? What the trial period might look like?
We're currently looking at, I would say, a week or something. We haven't fully decided on that yet. I think we just started development on it, but the details are still to be defined.
Got it. Well, Nicholas, I mean, there's clearly a lot for us to look forward to. Y'all are working on a ton of new features, which you were able to cover. And we appreciate you taking the time. I mean, it's really awesome to learn about what y'all are up to. And I'm personally really excited to see what's to come. I know all of us are.
Cool. Great to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. So if there's anything else that you want to talk about, anything that, we didn't cover, let us know.
No, I think we covered basically everything. So if people are interested to have, or if people have more questions, I'm also active in the Cryptocopia Discord, so they can just send me a private message under Nicholas VH, and I'll happily respond to any questions they might have.
Great. We'll see you in there then. Cool. Nicholas, thank you so much for taking the time out. I just want to, real quick, let everybody know the video is going to be posted. We'll post the recording of the live stream, but make sure you like the video, hit subscribe so that you can get notifications about our AMAs in the future, because we're going to do a ton more just like this. But Nicholas, again, thank you. Thank you to your team, and we will see you in the Discord, and have a great rest of your day.
Cool. You too. Thanks for having me.
Take it easy.